Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. We had some fun bowl games yesterday, some fun NBA games yesterday, just some fun sports games in general, some losses as well, of course. We'll just get right into the recap. Korea, what were your takeaways from your three plays from our video yesterday?
Yeah, for me, yeah, I'm not that guy. I had a rough day. The first game I had SMU. If for minus 10.5, that started at 8 a.m. I woke up to see SMU just don't know how to play ACC football. That was a tough loss. And then, like I said, my lean was Rutgers money line, but I just couldn't back either team, so I was just fading this team because fading both of them because I thought it was gonna be bad weather. Turns out their offenses finally showed up, and this over was soared over. This under was soared over. I think they finished 31-24. So my lean, that was a nice lean, but obviously did not hit. NC State had so many chances, but the K State Wildcat offense just was doing just enough to get themselves out of that game. And even though Brennan Armstrong, he threw for 164 yards, and he barely completed 50. He was obviously mostly useful on the ground. Barely completing 50% of his passes. You're just not going to beat anyone when you allow 435 yards of offense, especially 150 on the ground to get in. So it was just complete horrible day defensively for NC State, who is better defensively. But then finally, thank goodness, Arizona. Thank God, hallelujah. They were getting. I left. I left for dinner, and they were up, and then I come back and I see they're down 24-13. And I'm thinking, oh no, this is it going to be one of those days, people? Is it going to be one of those days? And then all of a sudden, I see the interception return, and I'm like, okay, we have life, people. We have life. And obviously, as soon as that 87-yard pick six happened, it was all Arizona from then. I mean, it was pretty much all Arizona in terms of the turnover battle. Airs 6 turnovers, forcing 5 interceptions for the 5-star. 5-star, 5 interceptions. Kind of goes hand in hand. So it was all Arizona. All day. I mean, obviously, Oklahoma did have that late lead in the second quarter. Kind of resurging of their offense, but in that second half, it was all Arizona. Like I said, they were going to control the ball offensively. And then defensively, it was just them taking over turnovers, taking the ball away from Oklahoma, and making sure that they can set themselves up in whether it's field goal range or right after the first interception, that dot from Fafita to Cowing on the sideline, running up the sideline. That's how they feed off the turnovers. The big explosive plays. So it's nice to see we ended with the win after a really horrible day yesterday. Ari, obviously we had Arizona, so that was nice to see. How the Pacers do yesterday?
Yeah, the Pacers won 2-1. One with Arizona, but the more important bet and was the winner, obviously. Um, Rough the first half, like they were up 13-0 in the second quarter. I thought that was going to win pretty easily, and then they got pretty much Oklahoma. Like it was like such a roller coaster because it was like a dominant first quarter by Arizona, and then pretty much the second and third quarters were dominated by Oklahoma. And then, like you said, it was they ended up changing it to a fumble recovery for a touchdown because I guess he caught the ball and he got hit and fumbled it, but still off the same result. And that completely changed the entire game, obviously, because they were in the red zone, up 24-13 at that time. So even if it got a field goal, I mean, it still would have been a two-score game, but obviously that completely changed. Went from potentially at worst or at best 27-13 to then they got the 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game after that fumble recovery for a touchdown, and then they get another pick 2 plays later, um, and then they get the field goal, and then that the entire momentum just shifted obviously after that play. You can just kind of tell with both sides of the field. So yeah, that was a big win for Arizona. Obviously, 10-win season to go, first I think since 2014, I believe it was. So that was big. And then the Pacers won pretty easily. There was a bit of a concern with Halliburton, who's a late add to the injury report, and so and the line was moving in the Bulls' favor, so I thought he might be out. He ended up playing. He dished 20 assists and was scoring 21 points. Buddy Hield hit 5 threes. I think Miles Turner had 24 points. So it was a nice just overall team win, for Indiana. a nice bounce back win after like I said, they've been struggling the past kind of week and a half. So yeah, 2-1 day for me. Obviously, the most important pick for me wound up winning as well.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned Arizona first half. It was just obviously we saw Oklahoma. Obviously that second quarter have the lead, but you mentioned the more important one, cash for us, Arizona, a full game -2. They obviously won by 14. We talk about how that interception, even though he did fumble it, it's still pretty much a pick six. They even said it was a pick six on the ticker, so they just assumed obviously the pick six right there, and that pretty much, as you mentioned, shifted the whole game. It was Arizona's game the whole entire way from there. All the turnovers, the fumble recoveries, just Arizona defensively, being the better team, and then offensively, doing enough, moving down the field, and then obviously, just cashing in on the right place at the right time. So that was a great win for you. And then you mentioned the Pacers, as the line was swinging the other way because Halliburton was questionable, and then he was potentially ruled out. But then obviously playing, and then 20 assists. That was a sweat for me. I mean, 20 assists in a game is insane, but that just shows how well this Pacers offense is. They're number one in the league for a reason, just because of how well they play, team basketball. One guy having 20 assists proves it for you. So, 2-1 day, but like you said, the more important win in the same game, kind of almost cancels out the first half, pretty much first half money line for you. So we will gladly take a 2-1 day after my disappointment. But we're going to end hopefully not only this week, but the year on a positive note, obviously today, with this being our last video of the 2023 year. That's crazy. 2023 already flew by us. Now we're already getting ready for 2024. And obviously on Monday, we have New Year's 6 bowl games, plenty of fun matchups on Monday, but we're going to get into our best bets for today and obviously some into the weekend. So I'm going to, and obviously I will be having my Sunday full card for New Year's Eve. That will be being posted on Saturday once lines are finalized, but I'm going to get into what I have for today and a little bit of tomorrow. First into today, my first game that starts in about a few hours. I'm taking this Notre Dame Oregon State game under. I got it at 41.5. It's now at 40. I'm still taking it under. Look, it's not that, I would back Oregon State, but on the points, but I can't back Ben Gulbranson because you look at all of that Oregon State that has gone. You talk about three offensive linemen. Damian Martinez, who was arrested, is not playing this game, obviously. So they're out their leading rusher. They're out their 2 quarterbacks. They're out 3 offensive linemen. That's already so many big losses against a Notre Dame defense that has been one of the better defenses pretty much in the country, and that has a lot of, especially at the front line where they can win the battle in the trenches. And the reason Oregon was, the number 4 team in terms of running the football in the country was because of the fact that their offensive line was pretty stout, and obviously having Deshaun Fenwick and not only Deshaun Fenwick, but him and Damian Martinez, 2 Derrick Henrys essentially. Kind of using more of that offense. But now you're down 2 quarterbacks. You're on the third string. You're on your third string quarterback who started most of the games, in that 2022 season. But it wasn't pretty. That was kind of the reason as to why DJ Youngalele and Aiden Childs transferred to Oregon State, because of the fact that Ben Gulbranson was just not that guy. He only completed about 62% of his pass. I think that was his PFF grade, about 62%. It just was not pretty, and you're going to have to depend on him to go against the Notre Dame defense that can stop the run, but obviously does have some holes in the back end. Pause. Definitely, there's some absences obviously in the secondary. Notre Dame is going to be starting without their 2 starting corners, so I just can't see an Oregon State offense that's already missing their leading rusher, 3 offensive linemen, and 2 starting quarterbacks to really get anything going when they're going to be handing off the ball a lot more than Ben Gulbranson through the air is just not good. And then we go to the Notre Dame side, and obviously there's no Sam Hartman. Obviously he has opted out. He opted out a while ago when this bowl was announced. So yeah, I think it's Steve Angeli. I think Stephen Angeli. That's who's starting for Notre Dame this week. And against an Oregon State defense that obviously has not been no sleeper, as we know from the Pac-12 play, we've seen this Oregon State defense before, and they're one of the more stout defenses on the ground as well. And with already out Audric Estime, the star running back, Heisman candidate, I would have said in my opinion, Heisman candidate running back, Audric Estime. There's some absences throughout that offense as well for Notre Dame, and especially on the ground where Oregon State will still have some of their key guys up front. They can still stop the run, and through the air that they're not the greatest, but at the same time I feel like with just the sport quarterback play and all these backups in, I do kind of like this under here at 40. My lean would be Oregon State on the points, but I just cannot say to myself, I'm going to be backing Ben Gulbranson to cover the spread. So we're just going to be taking the under here, knowing my luck the past couple of days. This game will probably end, 40-37 and soar over. But, we definitely like this under here. I think that's a smart play. I just think, fading both of these offenses to really get anything going against two defenses that mostly are playing alongside, a couple absences in the secondary for Notre Dame and an Oregon State secondary that has not been superb throughout the entire year. But then we're going to go to the Liberty Bowl. I'm sorry, the first one was the Sun Bowl. The next one, Liberty Bowl here. And even though this is in Memphis's backyard, we're still taking Iowa State on the points, -9.5 here in this game. And, even though this is, Memphis's backyard and, they've had a great season and, this has been they've had, not, when you look at, Memphis's schedule and all the teams that they've played, they haven't had, really bad losses, right? They've played a pretty tough schedule. They had to play Mizzou, obviously, who's playing later tonight in the New Year's Six Bowl. They had to play a 10-win Tulane team who obviously, would have been the team representing the American in some kind of top 2 New Year's Six Bowl, and SMU, who won the conference. So, look, to lose to those three teams, it's pretty stout on how well your team is, and that's because Memphis has one of the better offenses in the country. They're led by Seth Hennigan. The fact that he has that dual threat ability, 28 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns. The also having Rock Taylor and Blankency, as your 2 receivers, also does help, and then Blake Watson, the productive running back. The thing is, Iowa State has a really good defense, and it's a lot tougher of a unit, against your average, American conference team, like, your East Carolinas, your SMUs, and it's not really the greatest, kinds of defenses. And now they're playing an Iowa State defense, that is pretty stout, I'd say. Iowa State, one of the better teams in terms of pretty much stopping drives. They're 38th in finishing drives, meaning they don't let you get down the field, 33 in quality drives. They are pretty good at, stopping the pass and pretty much making sure no one gets any yardage at the line. The only caveat about Iowa State is their offense, but Memphis's defense is absolutely trash, along with the fact that they're already missing key guys in that secondary, along with that defense as well. I mean, you look at this Iowa State team, and it's not been a pretty year for the Cyclones. I mean, they've had some ugly losses, they've had some big wins, but through and through, I mean, they're on a great win streak right now. Winning, I think 5 of their last 7 games to become bowl eligible, obviously, and be in this spot in the Liberty Bowl. And, and that's been more key due to their defense. And, even with Memphis's offense missing some key guys as well, and the defense just being anemic, I do like Iowa State in this matchup. I think Memphis's defense is just not going to be able to do anything against the Iowa State offense that will have most of their key guys back. And then, for Memphis, they're not going to be as motivated, obviously, but at the same time, I just feel I just don't like Memphis in this spot. They haven't played a really good defense all year, and I would say Iowa State is probably going to be one of the better defenses they have played, and it's just not a good matchup for them offensively. So give me Iowa State on the points, -9.5, and then pretty much in the game of the day, I'd say. For college football, I'm taking Mizzou and Ohio State. I'm just taking the over. I'm taking the over at 49.5. I think that's around like -115 or something on DraftKings right now. I think this is going to be a really high scoring game. This is obviously, this is Mizzou's Super Bowl, and and for those obviously who don't know, Mizzou has had a hell of a season so far. I mean, they were not even supposed to be in the spot. They were outlooked, outshined. No one really gave them a chance, and the offense led by Brady Cook and Cody Schrader has just been absolutely torching all SEC opponents right now. We've seen the rise of Mizzou. They obviously are a top team in the country for a reason. They're in this spot for a reason. And they're the number 9 team in the country for a reason. They're 2 losses on the season, 2 tough losses. But when you really look at, who they lost to Georgia by 9. And, you can't really discredit them to losing to a top 5 team that almost was in the playoff, and then losing to LSU, another good team, obviously led by Jaden Daniels, the Heisman winner. So that pretty much comes to show two great offenses along with a great defense beating this team. But you look at how productive this offense for Mizzou is. They're 26 in points per game. They're 30th in passing yards per game. They know how to get down the field, and they're really efficient in scoring. Now, I will say, obviously, the caveat is that they're playing against an Ohio State defense that knows how to stop people. But, I just think this game is going to be a lot more high scoring than a lot of people think. I think this game soars over, and Mizzou's going to keep this a lot more interesting because, with all of the opt-outs and, there's I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is flying with the team, but there's not a sure chance if he's playing, so we don't really know. And obviously McCord, he already left the program, so it's going to be up to I think it's what's his name? Devin Brown. That's their backup. Devin Brown. It's going to be up to Devin Brown to pretty much get the job done. And we haven't really seen much of him this year, but I feel like it's probably just going to have to be relying on the pass against a really bad Mizzou defense. Mizzou hasn't really had a great defense, in terms of finishing drives, but they're 18th in rush success. They don't let you run the ball, but they're not great in the pass, and that's where Ohio State will probably have to succeed, to really get down the field because they're not going to be able to get it with the run. And so that really brings up the question, what is Marvin Harrison going to do in terms of his role? So, but obviously we've seen that he's not going to play, but with a lot of absences coming up for Ohio State in terms of their defense, and that's obviously their strength, in part of this team. There's a lot of absences, whether it's just opt-outs for bowls or, obviously going to the draft and whatnot. I still think, that this game is going to be going over in Mizzou. If Mizzou's going to want to cover, that would be my second lean. They're going to have to rely on their offense. And, I like this matchup in terms of both offenses. Mizzou facing Ohio State defense that is missing some key pieces, but that's mostly just because of the fact that, they just opted out. And then for Ohio State, they're gonna be playing a Mizzou defense that can't stop the pass, but can definitely stop the run. So they're definitely gonna have to use their pass to really move down the field successfully. So give me this over 49.5. I think that's too little points. I think this is gonna be a very exciting game, one of the higher scoring games of the day. So give me that over at 49.5. Or if it's at 49 right now, whatever it is, I'm taking that over. I think it's gonna be a very exciting game. And then now we're going back to college basketball here for a couple picks. First, we're taking Gonzaga at home. We're taking the -6.5 against SCSU. Look, I like this Gonzaga team in this bounce back spot. Obviously, they haven't played in a while, so it's been a minute since we've seen this Gonzaga team. Obviously, their last game being before the Christmas holiday, but now the extended rest, they come back off of that huge win against Jackson State at home, and now they play a good SDSU team, obviously, who is a lot better defensively. But the caveat, when you play a team that's I would say a little bit better defensively, and you're playing them on the road, at home, and obviously Gonzaga, they rely more on their offense. That's kind of been their caveat all year. They're 27th in points per game. They're 22nd in field goal percentage, so they can shoot the ball effectively. They just can't shoot it from the line. Obviously, they rely on going inside, driving in the lane. Outside, it's a lot of two-man play with Nebhard and Anton Watson, but inside they have Braden Huff, they have Graham Ike, and I think that's going to be a great size advantage against SDSU. Even though SDSU has Jaden Ledee, I don't know if he's going to be enough to do anything just by himself on the road in this really bad spot against a very high offensive scoring team at home. Now, obviously, off with the rest and all that stuff. So I'm taking Gonzaga on the points tonight, -6.5. I would like this to be a lot more closer than it is, but this is just a really bad spot for SDSU on the road, playing a really, really good Gonzaga team who obviously scores a lot more, especially at home. So give me Gonzaga -6.5 at home, and then this may be a homer pick. I don't even care, but I think this is too many points. I'm taking Wazoo +7.5 on the road at Utah tonight. I think this is going to be a lot closer than I think this is coming down to maybe a couple possessions here. When you look at this Utah team, and I've praised this Utah team a lot. They're not the greatest offensively. they only average about 80 points a game. That's 63rd in the country, so it's not great. But I know they have aspirations of being a tournament team. They turn over the ball a lot, and I think that's going to be their one caveat. It's like when you turn over the ball a lot, especially against a Coug team that is a little bit better defensively, and a little more even in play. I think that's a really bad look. They can hit their threes, but defensively, when you're probably going to get out rebounded by this team because Wazoo has two big guys, Cliff and Isaac Jones, who can get plenty of boards, and then you look at this Wazoo team, right? And they've had a couple bad losses, and it was during non-conference, but now this is where they get to shine. Obviously, during conference play, you're playing pretty much the same level, if not a little bit better than you. And then they're going on the road in this Utah team, and they're a little bit under. I'd say they're a little bit undervalued in this spot. I think 7.5 is a little bit too much value here. You look at this Wazoo team, right? And defensively, they're a lot better inside. They get about 6 blocks per game, which is 17th in the country, which means they have a lot more better interior defense. And then obviously they will out rebound. Excuse me. They will out rebound Utah in this game. They average about 7 steals per game. Their offense isn't great, but when your defense is kind of compelling you, to propel yourself to have like that fast break offense, which is what Wazoo kind of succeeds at. I do like them in the spot. They don't turn over the ball as much. And 7.5 points, you're getting them at. That's way too many points. Even though Utah's at home, I feel like both of these two teams have played each other very close throughout their history, and I think 7.5 points is just too many. So give me Wazoo plus 7.5 in college basketball tonight. So those are my plays for today. I know I was yapping a lot, but it's a lot of plays, but I love all of these today. So give me the first one, Notre Dame, Oregon State under. Iowa State's covering that minus 9.5. The game in the Cotton Bowl tonight is going over. Give me Mizzou, Ohio State over 49.5. And then on the court tonight for college basketball, I'm taking Gonzaga on the minus 6.5 in college basketball at home. And then I'm taking the Cougs of Washington State plus 7.5 on the road at Utah. Those are my picks for today. Ari, what do you got cooking up for today?
Yeah, I just have 2 plays NBA today. Start with the Knicks money line in Orlando, and this is mostly a line play for me. Just this morning, I saw them go from +1 to -1, so like basically 2 points, or 1 and 2 points in their favor. Obviously, I was in Orlando in their last game when they got crushed by Philly, at home without Embiid. Knicks, I think, match up pretty well against Orlando defensively with Brunson, Randall, Barrett, DiVincenzo. They're kind of main playmakers and scorers. Neither team has really strung together consistent wins as of late, so not too much to say about that. It's just partially a line play and partially just liking the way the Knicks match up with the Magic. It's in Orlando. The Knicks coming from OKC to Orlando, 2 days ago. Orlando staying home, so not too much an edge, kind of, in that regard. But I like the Knicks here, matchup-wise, line-wise, on the road in Orlando, with the line going in their favor as a small favorite now. And then I'm going over to the Nuggets, minus 2.5 at home. It is a back-to-back, so that's a slight concern, but they're still at home, so no travel. Jokic posted a perfect triple-double yesterday. I think he's 11-11 from the field with a triple-double. So that was, pretty crazy to see. And the Nuggets have won, I think, like 5 or 6 games in a row, so they're on a streak. Thunder coming off a big win over the Knicks, where Jalen Williams dropped a career high 36. I think in that game, Williams, SGA, and Chet combined for like almost 100 points with them 3 alone. So obviously, that's a fun trio. That's going to have, obviously a bright future. They're probably one of the youngest, up and coming teams. Young up and coming teams, I guess you could say. With one of the brightest futures is what I was trying to say. But I like the Nuggets are still the Nuggets. They're at home. I think that they, keep their winning ways at home. They don't have their injury report submitted, so back to back, there's always a slight chance somebody sits. So that's my only slight setback on this play. But as of now, I like this minus 2.5 at home for the Nuggets. To cover. So Nuggets to cover 2.5 at home. And then the Knicks with the line going in their favor on the road in Orlando tonight.
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned first the Knicks money line. You mentioned that that line kind of flipped from plus money to minus money, obviously. So, obviously Vegas knows that, maybe Knicks get the job done on the road, even though you mentioned, obviously, in Orlando, obviously the Magic, one of the better teams, especially at home. The Knicks do match up pretty well against this Magic team. So I do like the Knicks money line tonight, minus 112, pretty much in a pick 'em, essentially. And then the Nuggets, minus 2.5. You mentioned home, even though it's a back-to-back, the Nuggets at home or the Nuggets at home. They're one of the best teams in the league at home. And, even though, you mentioned Nikola Jokic literally just having that perfect triple-double, not missing a single entire shot from the field and from the line, and this Thunder team being one of the, the youngest teams with the most promise. I like the Nuggets just at home, just to get the win in this back-to-back, especially, just, with home court and then, just seeing how Jokic did play yesterday. So those are your two picks today. I like him as well. Obviously just going 2-0. And what? Oh, sorry. I'm. Wait. Am I reading this right? -90. What happened in that in this Clemson game? Did Clemson get a
Kentucky to score? It's the East
Oh.
getting yeah.
Oh.
Kentucky's.
Let's go. Okay, sorry. For everyone out there, I have Kentucky on the spread today, so we do like to see Kentucky scoring right there. But obviously, those are always two plays today. I have Knicks. He has Knicks money line and the Nuggets minus 2.5 tonight. I think those are two great plays in the NBA. And then going back to my absolutely loaded card today, I have Notre Dame under, Iowa State to cover, Mizzou over, Gonzaga basketball covering, and Wazoo on the road covering in basketball. I do have a play for tomorrow as well. For college, not for college football, for the NFL. We are taking them boys, people. I know we don't like it. I'm gonna have my full card posted throughout the weekend. But in the game, primetime game tomorrow, yes, we are taking this. We are taking Cowboys minus 5.5 at home. Look, this is no disrespect to the Lions in whatsoever, but the Cowboys need this win more. The Lions already wrapped up the division. We talk about how the Cowboys, can't beat anyone on the road, but at home they look like the best team in the league, and here they are back at home in this spot. Primetime game. We know how Dak's going to do his, here we go on air, and everyone's going to hear it, and everyone's going to not like it, but he's going to put up, big numbers against a Lions secondary that can't do anything. Look, I expect this game. If I had a second lean, I like this game to go over. But I just know the Cowboys are going to put up absolute numbers against a line secondary that, just has not been, the strongest. And we always talk about, the Lions, up front, they're one of the better teams, but the secondary has been, they're lackluster. And, CeeDee Lamb, he attacks secondaries pretty much. So, I expect him and Dak to pretty much be on target all game tomorrow. But I like the Cowboys minus 5.5. I think the Cowboys are just going to absolutely beat the brakes off of this Lions team. The like I said, the Lions already wrapped up the NFC North, and everyone's going to be talking about, this could be a potential NFC Championship game. Ooh, who knows? But obviously, it's just going to be the Cowboys just doing their thing, beating up teams at home. I do expect the Lions to try to make this a lot more fun. Obviously, with the Cowboys struggles in the secondary, but I do know that this Cowboys team at home is just one of the best teams, in terms of, how their offense is producing. And, even with the Lions and all that stuff and how good their offense is, I expect the Cowboys, get the job done. I expect them to win by a touchdown. So I like them at minus 5.5. I like that line for the Cowboys. I will have obviously more plays posted for this week. And this has just been my play that I've been highlighting throughout the week, just because, we saw how the Cowboys have done on the road, obviously in back-to-back spots, losing at Buffalo and then at Miami, just, in terms of how their offense works. But now they're back at home in this spot, in this week 17 matchup against the Cowboys. And I like them to just, against the Lions. And I like them to just get the job done at home. I think their offense shows out. And I expect Dak and CeeDee Lamb to be, dialed in all games. So I like the Cowboys minus 5.5 tomorrow. Like I said, my full weekend card will be posted momentarily later, once lines come out and once, I do my full due diligence of research. But Ari, do you have anything this weekend? What have you cooked up so far?
Yeah, I have two plays for Sunday. I was on the Eagles over last week. I'm going back to it. I think this is Lions. I think this line could soar. This game could soar over. I think the Eagles, will do their thing against the Cardinals defense. And again, the Eagles secondary has been struggling. I think Kyler will, hold his own, even with Marquise Brown out, who's now on IR out for the season. But I think the Cardinals will be able to do more than enough to push this game over. The Eagles-Giants game went over pretty easily last week. I think this game could be like 55 to 60, total points. I think this can go over pretty easily. And then I'm fading Derek Carr here with the Buccaneers, who have been, the better team. They've been on fire, obviously playing for the division here. Baker Mayfield, he's been balling out lately, the past few weeks specifically. And the Saints are still, banged up defensively. The Bucks. I think the Bucks are banged up as well, but I'm just taking the Bucks offense over the Saints offense here, pretty much. I think it's in Tampa Bay, so it's a home game for Tampa Bay. I'm just taking the hotter offense, the better team as of late, over the Saints, who have kind of been the definition of kind of mediocre, obviously, and the Bucks kind of have been too. But between these two teams, I'm taking the Bucks at home, who have been the better team as of late.
Yeah, you mentioned the Cardinals and Eagles. You mentioned I love that over for you. You mentioned the Eagles with their defensive struggles, one of the worst secondaries in the league right now. And even with Marquise Brown ruled out, I do like those, this receiving core to do just enough against the Eagles secondary, that has, not done a lot. And I also, for fantasy purposes, maybe targeting guys like Trey McBride and, especially guys like those, especially through the air, or, maybe Rondale Moore gets a bigger role now that Marquise Brown is already ruled out for Sunday's game. But I do like this over as well. You mentioned, the Eagles and, how their offense has pretty much been the PowerPoint, of their wins, and along with, the Zebras, if you want to get controversial. But, I do like this spot for the game to go over. I think it's going to be one of the higher scoring games, especially with Kyle Murray, his ability to scramble out in the pocket and, make a play out of nothing. I do like this Eagles game to go over 48.5. And then you mentioned fading Derek Carr. It is my privilege to fade that man. I will gladly fade that man. I love the Buccaneers in this spot, -2.5, as you mentioned. This is pretty much, you can honestly say this is for the division because, the Saints are one of the three teams contending along with the Falcons, and the Bucks, I think, already have the tiebreaker over the Falcons, if I'm not mistaken. So they just need this win to pretty much cement the division. And obviously this is at home, so this is huge for this Bucks team. And you mentioned Baker Mayfield playing, not so great, but he's doing just enough, he's a great game manager. And I know there's so many controversial takes of what a game manager, what a game changer is. Baker Mayfield, obviously, he's a great game manager, and, he is dialed in, he's making some good plays, right when we need to. Obviously, we've seen, him make some great plays, obviously connecting with Mike Evans downfield. And we've seen, him and Chris Godwin, and obviously the emergence of Rachaad White, which has been absolutely huge. The run defense for Tampa Bay obviously has been the key, being able to stop the run. So, I don't like Alvin Kamara this week, really getting anything going out of the backfield. Obviously, Derek Carr probably going to have to, dump down, and, especially against this Bucks defense. I just like the Bucks at home. I think they do get the job done. I think they win by 3 or more. So I like this. I like those two picks for you this weekend. Just the Cardinals and Eagles over 40.5, and the Bucks -2.5 for you. And then obviously my sole play for now, just the Cowboys -5.5. Just taking them on the spread tomorrow. I think the Cowboys do get it done. In that big exciting Saturday night primetime game. But the Lions, will make it fun. So if I did have a lean, my lean is the over. But I just like the Cowboys to get it done -5.5. The Cowboys, one of the best teams at home, obviously, first off, undefeated at home this season. And then obviously on top of that, just the point differentials, we've seen how well the Cowboys defense executes at home versus on the road. So that's my one pick for now. And obviously I'll have my full card posted later. And obviously all of this information that we've talked about today posted on our Twitter below, AKP Sports Talk. But Ari, if you don't have anything else, that's going to do it for this episode and this year, people of AKP Sports Talk. That is Ari. I'm Korea. We'll be back on Monday to not only ring in the new year, but also give you guys some great college football plays. Obviously, Monday, huge day. We got 2 big matchups in the college football playoff. Michigan and Alabama out in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl. And then the game of the night, UW and Texas battling it out in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl. Also got some fun games, obviously recapping week 17 as we head into the final week of regular season. I know. I didn't want to say that, Ari. I didn't want to say it either, but it's that time of year. We're getting near the end of the NFL season. So, we're going to do our recaps of that as we get into some good playoff battles, potentially playoff clinching scenarios, and our best bets as we ring in the new year. But that's going to do it for this episode. We hope you guys have a great New Year's Eve and a happy New Year. That is Ari. I'm Korea. We will see you guys on Monday at the start of 2024.